Hello, everyone, and welcome to Market Pulse with NFT 18, where we analyze and break down the latest market trends with Zoup, co-founder of Non-Fungibles and the new advanced analytics studio, NFT 18. Zoup, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation. It's been a while, and I'm really excited to join you again.
It has. I'm pretty hyped up. I got a lot of questions. We got a lot of questions from the community, so really excited to have big Giga Brain here to talk to us once again about what's going on in the market. And there's been a lot of stuff that's been moving and shaking, so a lot to talk about. Before we hop in, if there happens to be someone that hasn't been here previously when you were joining us, and we took a little bit of a hiatus from this live type of show, could you just give a brief background on yourself and your new studio, NFT 18?
Definitely. So actually, I've been in the NFT space for quite a long time, to be honest. I started in 2018, just publishing a couple of NFT analysis about the state of the market and so on. And since then, so as you said, I founded non-fundable.com in 2018 with a co-founder. Um, and I think that we've been actually the first company to issue reports about the space, about the market trends, and so on. And so more recently, we have been the main valuator for the whale portfolio. So I'm basically the one behind the NFT portfolio valuation that you've seen on this code since 2020. Yeah. And now, so since this year, I've created NFT 18, which is basically my own venture, which is only focused on market reporting. So the main difference between non-fungible.com and NFT 18 is that non-fungible.com will remain the source of information for real life data. You will have all the details, all the, let's say, the raw information. And what we provide is more like, let's say, insights and market intelligence. So that's the main difference.
Very cool. You referenced your time in this space. I don't know where I was. I wasn't even looking at anything related to non-fungible or NFT 18. But I came across like a picture of you at like a local meetup. I think it was like 2019 or something, and there was like 6 people in the room or 10 people in the room. You were explaining crypto and NFTs. So
Yeah.
yes, you've definitely been in the space a long time. Hence the connection to the whale community and whale shark actually. So excited to talk to you about your reporting. So my understanding is you always have the data, right? You're always looking at the data, and once a month, as you get into the new month, you kind of recap what just happened, right? What were the trends? What were the drivers? Where is the market been recently, and where's it going? And you publish that monthly. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So previously, we used to publish that on a yearly or quarterly basis. But the thing is that the space is moving, even if it's quite slow right now, it's moving too fast to do that on a quarterly basis. So at the beginning of every month, we try to get it live before the 5th or the 6th of the month. We get you a complete recap, which is about like 60 pages long. I know it's quite long, but the thing is that we go really in depth about what's going on globally and what's going on per segment for art, gaming, metaverses, and so on. And we try to issue new exclusive insights every month. This month, for example, we have a couple about wash trading, about the profit and loss, and so on. So every month, we try to surprise you with new insights and new metrics.
Yeah, that was some of the commentary on the Discord. Actually, people had seen the October report, and they said it was cool, some of the new inferences and ways of looking at things that you did, and I'll let us get to that in the report itself. So, yeah, 60 pages released monthly. If you want to go to that depth, I think there's a light version as well, right? That was about 30 pages or so that people could go ahead and grab from your Twitter or your website here. That's NFT 18 underscore reporting. November just wrapped up. A lot of things shifted coming out of October into November. I'd say the entire vibe of the space almost did a 180 on a dime at some point. And it's very different now versus what we were looking at in October. 60 pages. Where do we start? Where do you want to? I guess do you want to give a synopsis of what you think that that month encapsulated? How would you start to characterize November?
So honestly, I think the baseline for November is that it has been the best month for NFT markets since the bull run. That's basically the baseline for the month. And so what does it mean? What you can see there is the kind of wrap up we publish every month on Twitter, LinkedIn, and our different social media. And if you look at that, and you will have more details in the report, that we have something like 10, 20 different metrics with growth over 100%. We have not seen that since May 2022. Basically, what we are seeing is like stabilization or decrease, decrease, decrease. And for the first time, we have not just like a slight increase like we had in October, which was good, but just a weak signal. What we had in November is a massive growth. It's a massive increase of almost everything. And
Wow.
first time we see that.
You mentioned the methodologies, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, what are you guys doing for data sourcing? I'd imagine you have to have things are very different now than the last bull run, right? Lots of different chains with lots of NFT activities. In fact, that was some of the criticism of the aggregators for some time was like, hey,
Mhm.
it could only capture so much. I would think at this point there's better tools, better ideas of how to encapsulate it all. I'd imagine you guys have a bunch of different places you're tapping and sourcing and trying to put this all together.
So actually, yeah, the main data source we have, and that's the difference as well. We previously with nonfungible.com, we had like our own node and all this stuff, and we basically did everything from A to Z. But the thing is that it was not extremely scalable. Mostly, if you have to support like 6 to 10 different chains, and there are new chains popping every week. So now we are relying on a data provider called Simple Hash. So they do all the black magic to support all these chains. And the thing is that as they are only focused on the tech side of things, it's way easier for them to do that. They're extremely good at tech stuff, and we are quite good at doing, market intelligence. So right now, we support 6 different chains. So Ethereum, of course, Ordinals, Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism, and I've missed one. Sorry. What's the last one? Sorry, but 6 different chains. Yeah.
Wow. And if Solana and AVAX and IMX and all these other ones were included as well, I can only imagine that these trends would continue to show maybe even stronger
Yeah.
growth numbers than you're looking at now, especially with some of the things we're seeing that's more nuanced in those subchains. So yes, huge month, drastically different, not a slight uptick. um what are some of your key takeaways in seeing this? What do you attribute it to, or do you want to talk about the sub segments and then get into that?
Now we can start with the global trend. So what is the reason for that? Some could consider that it's due to the end of the season two, sorry, of Blur airdrop. I don't think so. I think it's something a little more in depth. It's really like a global trend. So of course, the fact that we had more noise related to the season 2 of Blur had an impact. But if you look at Jack Butcher being able to sell 10,000 NFTs, art NFTs, we have not seen a 10K drop since probably the bull run, or at least a 10K selling out. The fact that almost all the metrics, not only like profit or not only just the floor price pumping, it's like a global trend. So I feel like after like almost 6 months of stabilization, we have so many weak signals that are gradually converting into a new healthy market. And if you just look at a couple of corporate projects that have been launched recently, I think there's something super deep about that. It's like it's not corporate entering the space just to make money. They have spent the necessary time to think about what is an actual utility. Why would someone pay buy my NFTs. And not just because they look good, not just because they are NFTs. So I think that what we see right now is basically the results of 6 months of fail, 6 months of projects trying to launch and are not selling out or with the flow decreasing by 10 right away. So I think it's not only something you can sell the market, something that is the result of what people understood about NFTs.
It's interesting you say that because cryptocurrency, obviously, with the macro market moves that have happened even just in the past week or two, there's been some discussion on our Discord and other communities I'm in relative to why what's some of the catalysts for this. And obviously there's ta that's involved, and we're approaching the halving, and I want to talk about that in a little bit. But also there's a lot of people giving credence to the fact that a lot of these blockchain leadership groups have really put in time over this bear market to build out infrastructure to properly support some of these sub segments, to properly support NFTs as an ecosystem on their chain, and give teams that are building blockchain gamings the right resources, as opposed to it being an afterthought, a tack on. And we're seeing some of the fruits of their labor kind of come and be harvestable now, so to speak, and coming to market. So it's very much in line with what you're talking about with some of these projects that put thought into it, approached it differently, and the market's responding.
Absolutely. And that's interesting because you have something like two different forces at stake. On the one end, you have, let's say, the NFT community. There is one. Basically, everyone who is involved more or less in the NFT space that collect a couple of things here and there. And on the other end, you have media and the mainstream that don't really know what's going on, but just they pick an information somewhere. The example of a report from That Gumball is a good example. They don't really know what's going on, but they see a figure, they see like a really cool chart, and they're like, oh, there is something to say about NFTs. So the mainstream is basically between people that know really what's going on in NFTs and media that don't know but just repeat stuff. Sorry, nothing against media, but a lot of them do this.
Right.
So you have this kind of double trend of no, we know that the NFT space is quite solid and something is getting built long term, and media are like NFTs are dead, metaverse are dead.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, everything's relative, right? There's still a massive market cap. If you looked at what the floor, so to speak, valuations of even what has retained value, and you would say, is above a certain threshold. It's still massive compared to the zero it started. It's just like Bitcoin, right? They have all these headlines. Bitcoin is down 70% when it had fallen, right? But relative to where it was a year or two ago, it's a massive increase. So yeah, the media definitely doesn't do us any favors. But you're right. So that leads me to another question. We have this massive surge. Is this the existing ecosystem just becoming more active? Because I would think we're not quite at the point where that's new money yet, where there's new entrants into the market.
No, no, indeed. So we haven't really checked where the money comes from, but what I can tell you is more about the wallets. And the wallets that we see active right now are wallets that are actually already in the space. So it's not like we have like a crazy amount of new community arriving and new people discovering NFTs. It's basically more people that were in standby. And I think that a lot of people, maybe you and me and others in the community, are this kind of guy that we are still active. We still post. We still follow what's going on, but we don't buy. We may not collect right now. So from a market standpoint, we look as we are done with NFTs, but not at all. We are just waiting for some good time for some good projects as well. And I think that people like us are exactly the kind of people that are basically waking up the wallet right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm doing some things that I haven't for some time, and said that
Yeah.
now it's time for me to re-engage on some certain fronts. So you talk about some of the work being done in the bear. What else do you think are catalysts here? Do you think the macro crypto market movement is playing a role for sure?
Yeah, definitely. there is still a massive correlation between crypto market and NFT market. And as we have seen this kind of gradual pump over the past few months, and more recently, of course, I think that, yeah, that definitely has an impact. Like, basically crypto are more volatile. So if you see any crypto going up, you're like, hey, NFTs will follow. So a lot of people, way than others, have sent signals that things are going to move. And as well, I think there is some sort of mechanism for some big collectors is that they may be looking at their profit in terms of dollars and maybe not in terms of crypto. So if the crypto market rise, they may basically make money in terms of dollar and basically consider that okay, it's a good time to sell and to move and maybe to buy something new.
Yeah, I always use the phrase over here that I use crypto to cake up, right? I get some more funds and then I redeploy them into things that I, have more disposable income for all of a sudden. It's hard to make the justification just out of what you live, what you use to sustain your lifestyle. But when you
Mhm.
have a windfall, then you're more opportunistic, I think, to participate in the NFT space. Depends how you play it. Like I am not I'll say right now, I am not a flipper. I'm not trying to invest to just sell for a profit quickly. I mean, sure, there's some things that I hope appreciate long term, but I don't participate that way. So that's the way I look at it. But from your comment about investors, I've always had a theory, and I don't know if it's true, but I've had a theory that people will rotate into different assets based on what the optimal return is at the time and where the risk is. So I feel like I've seen a trend where if crypto is going to slingshot and you think that's the most opportunistic thing to participate in, people will have capital there. Once they realize a bunch of gains, okay, now it's time to diversify into if I always wanted a crypto punk or whatever it is, right? Wherever that scales for you. I feel like people often do that. And so at the cusp of some upward momentum like we've had here, we've had some creators even in some of our spaces, and they've said, hey, look, I've seen the market, I've seen Bitcoin, I've seen all these things
Yeah.
moving, but I haven't seen activity. I haven't seen it on my end. And when we talk to them, I say, you know, possibly just like we often see with market caps for crypto, right? The big boys go, and then the large caps and the mid caps and the small caps and the micro
Mhm.
caps, so the money filters on down. So perhaps something like that, people make their gains, and then
Yeah.
you'll see more activity into other things, first things that are very high liquidity, big
Mhm.
PFP collections or whatever, and then people start, trying to get art pieces they've held for grails. These are just theories of mine, but maybe you've seen some confluence in that.
No, no, that's a really good one. I don't know if if you made that intentionally, but that's an extremely good transition to an assumption I have as well in this report, which is basically, as you say, some sort of pivot for the big collectors. Basically, what we've identified is that some assets like CryptoPunks and Bored Ape are, let's say, becoming the ETH and Bitcoin of NFTs. So they are basically these kind of, yeah, pillars. They will never drop to zero because they are, let's say, more or less too big to fail. But on the other end, they are not that volatile anymore. They will not go like 20%. Let's say they will not go 10x just like that in 2 days. It's not going to happen again. I don't think so. And I think these big collectors are basically trying, some of them are basically pivoting from these big NFTs that add or still have store value and are like, okay, it's time to play again. And what we've seen is that these big collections have been dumped a little bit, or at least people lost money on them compared to other new collections like Jack Butcher, like I have a certain list in the report, but it looks like people go from less, let's say, liquid NFTs, high value, less liquid NFTs, to super volatile, super liquid NFTs with a huge risk. But it's a little bit like that's the nature of the beast, that's the nature of NFTs, but that's what they're looking for. They now have part of NFTs that are solid, robust, and part which is like, okay, now let's try to make a 10x or 100x in 2 days.
Right. Well, I've never heard that. I've never heard that correlation. It seems so obvious to me. I'm surprised I haven't that crypto punks and then Bored Apes have become the BTC and ETH of NFTs. And then I'm going to spend the rest of the day trying to make crypto correlations to NFT projects and wait till I get to some shit coins. I know exactly where I'm going with it. But yeah, that's that.
I lost you. I don't hear you anymore.
That's what other are some what are some other really interesting.
Oh,
Zoop,
music
can you
on
hear
my
me?
end. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Zoop. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just was wondering what are some other interesting things that you found over the past month?
So I think maybe it's time to enter into more details. Maybe the first, that's an important one. One of the metrics that was extremely surprising for us was about the average and the median price of NFTs. And basically, even if basically everything is going up, if you look at the, maybe you can just switch to a report itself on page 9. So basically, the median price decreased. Yep, this one, which is page 10. Sorry. Yeah, this. Yep, this one. Yeah, the median price decreased by 98% and the average by 42%. That's definitely an extremely surprising trend compared to all the other ones that are like quite encouraging. And the explanation is super simple, but it's something that could be tricky if you just look at figures. Is that this is due to super massive amount of assets issued on side chains on layer 2. So basically, you have, I think it's like membership assets and so on layer 2, like Polygon and Optimism, and Base as well, where these assets will never worth a lot. And it's no big deal. It's not like they are losing value or anything like that. Just we've seen like something like 500,000 or 1 million new NFTs issued for super low value. So liquidity for these low NFTs, so low value NFTs, means that the average price and the median price go close to zero. And as some of them were traded for like really, 0.01 Matic or so on, it's like it's almost nothing. But we just have new kind of assets circulating for extremely low value. So it's not a bad signal or anything like that. Just if you look at the median and average price, it's really super close to zero now due to that.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting and probably a good signal culturally, in my opinion, about tokenization and it being used. But it reminds me of an argument someone was making about art NFTs, and there was a headline talking about the average price was near zero, something like that, because so many people are able to publish what they want, and other people were
Exactly.
like, "Yeah, look what making art doesn't dilute the value of fine art. Like it's not because my kid came home with these 7 pictures from kindergarten where I could knock off a percentage of my future value here, right? Like there has
Yeah.
to be perspective in how you look at it. But speaking of, to jump around a little bit, since we were talking about it, you talk about layer twos. I actually saw Art Basel Miami just happened, and there was a lot of partnerships that were announced with big organizations now working with Layer Two, whether it's Arbitrum
Yeah.
or one of the ZK coins. Optimism obviously has gotten a lot of momentum over the past uh, couple of weeks. Actually, um, someone was saying that they believe by the end of the next year that most art and collectible NFTs will be on layer twos. And I don't personally agree with it, but there was a contentious debate on the Discord about that, about what that means and why people would or wouldn't. So that's definitely something that's on the brain of both the creatives and the collectors out there.
Yeah, honestly, I really don't think so either. I'm aligned with your vision. I think that, and that's what we have today. chains will be more and more specialized for different use case. If you look at running, it's mostly for gaming. If you look at Immutable X, gaming as well. ETH has been like the, let's say, the kickoff point for NFTs. So we still have a little bit of everything there. But at the end of the day, my feeling is that we'll basically have a high value NFTs, including art, on Ethereum, things that have to be extremely liquid and that basically maybe may not be super valuable will gradually move to sidechains. So of course you will have art on sidechains. That's a fact. But basically, it's just like you will be selling art at Sotheby's and Christie's because that's the right place. Not that you cannot sell your Picasso on eBay, just that it's not usual. You don't want your Picasso to be just next to a $2 stuff. And that's basically what happens on sidechain. Most of the assets there are globally low value. And it's not a bad thing, once again. It's just that it's the nature of sidechains. As you pay basically no fees, it's absolutely no problem to trade an NFT for 50 cents or 60 cents. It's fine. And if you trade an NFT which is worth like 60 cents, you will pay $5 of fees for 60
Right.
cents. It's not going to happen.
Right. I agree. And from my, a personal perspective, if I want something I want to treasure long term, I want the most secure, most what I believe is the best prospect of having longevity and having the most liquidity. And to me, that is Ethereum. Yes, Ethereum and not Bitcoin, but that's just a personal that's a personal preference of mine for another discussion. Before we even get into ordinals, because that's a whole
I,
nother bag.
I don't know
Um,
for ordinals. Maybe ordinals is a good place for art, to be honest. Why not?
Yeah, yeah. You know what? It almost becomes a cultural discussion, right? But from a market perspective and a trends perspective, let's do ordinals. You wanted to go there, Zoup, so we're there. Ordinals. Now you got the ordinals data. Ordinals has been crushing from a volume perspective. I get a little mixed up when I go to Crypto Slam because I see a lot of BRC20s in there, and I'm not sure if they're tokens or there's pictures riding on them. But there's a lot of noise to me with ordinals.
Yeah.
I have a lot of reasons why I like to collect on Ethereum versus BTC or vice versa based on the cultural and tech nuance of it. But from a market perspective, tell me what you're seeing on ordinals. What are your thoughts on where it's at and its viability going forward? Because its detractors, among other things, will say, it has momentum because of the narrative right now. But what happens as we continue to progress and the price of Bitcoin gets very high and there's more discussion on making the network more efficient?
That's a tough one. Okay, so I personally don't buy anything on ordinals just because I haven't seen interesting projects so far. Just to give you a little bit of a backstage, that's interesting to know, I think. Every month we have to go through all the new projects that we discover and just to qualify them and to say basically, okay, this is spam, this is a project, this is a collectible, this is art, and so on. So we've done that on ordinals. We went through like something like almost 1,000 projects on ordinals, one by one, just to check what it is and to basically put them in categories, in the segments. Most NFTs on ordinals are basically what we used to have on Ethereum in 2018, 2019, like the super low quality NFTs, like copycats of everything you can imagine. I'm not saying that Bitcoin or ordinal is not made for NFTs. I think the variable position is really interesting. But when you see all these BRC20 that are just basically a copycat of a loot again and again and again, you have just words. Okay, that's cool. You have a couple of characters. You may just have a text, whatever. BRC20 is, in my opinion, a proof of concept, an interesting one that will probably have a super interesting use case down the road for identity, for domain names, all this stuff. Why not? But come on, you don't need to have like 1,000 different kind of projects about domain names on a single blockchain. We have identified something like, I would say, 20, 30 really promising projects. But for now, I would say that the value proposition of these projects on ordinals is quite low compared to what it could be. So it's in my humble opinion, it's a promising technology. It's a promising project. Infrastructure. Of course, it's on the mother of all blockchain on Bitcoin. But what you have right now is not convincing, in my opinion. It's still immature.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cultural debate on security and longevity, and certainly there's some that make perfect sense, like Coldy. I don't know if you're familiar with Coldy as an artist, but
Of course.
literally embedded and entrenched in art about crypto and crypto art. So for him to inscribe something is a no-brainer, and I think like, but you're right. There's a lot of noise, so I'm interested personally, and maybe I'll ask your opinion when new money ultimately does come in, because my thesis is we approach the halving, post halving, there's likely to be a run up. With that, there's capital rotation. The NFT market likely goes and coincides with it and follows. When new entrants come into this place, people that weren't in the NFT space before, they're coming in fresh and they're looking at, hey, what's cool? How do I participate? And they see this narrative. You can get it on Ethereum, but over here you can get this on Bitcoin. What do those people think? Because if the new inflows go to that, that could be really interesting.
That's honestly quite annoying, in my opinion. The thing is that when you arrive on such blockchain, you have been hyped by someone that truly loves Bitcoin originals, that thinks the future, whatever. You arrive there and you see all these BRC20, and then you see all these copycats of oh, cross weird combination of CryptoPunks and Bored Ape, and you have all this stuff together. You honestly have that narrative that most media have, is that NFTs don't make any sense. They don't have any value and you should just forget about them. Just because it's so easy to produce this stuff. So basically the quality is hidden by so many complete useless projects or speculative projects. And honestly, I have a feeling that some degen, like the degen of the degens, they are getting bored and they just try to create new assets for potentially cheap price that could pump. And it's just some sort of a small reminder of what we had during the bull market, that I think it will take time to see this kind of behavior disappear. It will, because most people will not be interested in this stuff and they will become marginal over time, but we still have a long road to go.
Yeah, well, it'll be fascinating to watch it play out. And then
Mm.
I'll move off of the alt chains, but you got my
Yeah.
my gears moving here. We talked about layer twos. We talked about Bitcoin. How about other layer ones that are gaining traction? I know you didn't say it's in your data, but Solana has had monstrous activity, dwarfing even Polygon.
Yeah.
And Avalanche also has had a flurry of activity with the infrastructure that they've put with their teams behind art and behind gaming specifically, right? So these alternative chains have gotten a lot of momentum. What are your thoughts on that? Is that sustainable? Do you think it'll find a niche and that's where they'll stay, or will it, proliferate in all segments, will be successful across all of these viable blockchains?
Mm, I don't think we'll have several, let's say, generic blockchains for NFTs at least. I really feel like we'll have more and more specialization for each blockchain. And in the case of Solana, so as you said, yeah, we don't have this data in this report, but we'll definitely include them. Maybe not next month, but yeah, in 1 or 2 months, we'll definitely include them. The thing is that there was so much hype around Solana when it started. So many, Solana maximalists, they were like, okay, Ethereum is over, it's dead. Solana is the new Ethereum. You should forget about your old chain. So I know there is a lot of marketing and a lot of maximalists. And these people, they are really good. They know how to make a lot of noise about that chain. So once again, I'm not trying to say that Solana is bad or the volume is fake or whatever, just that we should pay attention to the reality of market and the quality of what is delivered on Solana
Right. Like
compared to the
right here,
marketing.
I'm looking at what seems to be like, nearly entirely. I mean, of course, these are collections, so it's not going to be representative if there are artists that are crushing it and doing great stuff. But, this is clearly driven by, PFP um, projects and people trying to find, liquid coins with pictures, essentially, right? In my theory, not to disparage anyone that likes to participate, because there are some cool community PFPs. I don't want to get the PFP people getting mad at me here. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying that
Yeah,
variety is good representing on a blockchain.
absolutely. And there is a little bit of a chicken and egg problem. And to be honest, I'm not sure it's something that we should be able to find, but we know that Sol, the value of Sol pumped a lot. And on the other end, the activity, the NFT activity on Solana pumped as well. So is it because a lot of people became millionaire in a couple of weeks and they're like, oh, cool, I have money. What should they do with that money? And they basically start playing with NFT? Maybe. Or is it because we've seen a lot of NFT activity that Sol pumped? I'm not sure. That way,
That's a good
sorry.
point. They're up into, I think $70 or and change last time I checked, right? So a significant upswing for them, and with that a significant jump in their activity on the NFT space. So maybe that diversification we're talking about, people
Yeah,
rotating after some wins into other asset classes there within the ecosystem. So
absolutely.
thank you for indulging me on alt chain.
Oh, I lost you again. Oh, looked like we lost Nightmare, or maybe I can, I don't know.
If anyone's tuning in and they're not on the whale discord, can you hear me, Zoop?
I can hear you. Sorry, you cut for a while, but you're back.
Oh, okay. So I must be rambling too much. That's the gods telling me to quiet down. If you're not on Discord, hop in, drop questions. We see it. Drop memes. Try me. I'll try not to laugh, but we have a concurrent conversation always. So back to the market. I know here you had sub segments as well down below. Any interesting insights on the segments over the past month?
So that's a good point. So what we have for now is what we call segments. We do have subsegments, but not in this report yet. So segments are collectibles, art, metaverses, virtual worlds, utilities, and gaming. But below that, we do have these subsegments. For art, for example, you have generative art, photography, music, and so on. So one day, soon, we'll be able to get you data for this specific niche within each segment. So what's going on? So virtual worlds is not in a really good shape. I think that they had this kind of double effect of hype about NFTs and super hype around metaverses. So right now, they are still suffering from that. Expectations went from this to something more realistic, sort of like that. So right now, virtual world is a super tiny segment of the whole NFT space. I would say that the one that is definitely doing the best is art, because art is some sort of a UFO. It just doesn't react like other segments. In my opinion, my analysis is that it's mostly because the buyers are not the same. People that buy crypto art, expensive crypto art, they are, let's say, a little bit like with shark. They know what it is to buy art. They have already bought art before. So, these kind of people, they, I mean, they are not like the traditional NFT flipper. So, yeah, Nightmare, you have a question?
No, I was excited that art is getting momentum. I know we always like to see.
No, no.
You were
So it's
saying?
yeah, I'm back. I'm still there. But the thing is that art is one of the two segments that is almost not losing money. So we calculate the profit and loss per segment every month. And basically, if you look at collectibles, it's like 42 million lost in November. It's a lot of money lost, actually. Art is like less than 1 million lost in the resale of art. So it says two things. People that have bought art like 1 year or during the bull market, they don't need to resell their artwork right now at loss. They can wait, or they just don't want to sell because they love what they bought. On the other end, we still have a little tiny part of flippers on art, but this is really like yeah, this is microscopic compared to the rest of art collectors. So it's quite a solid segment. Art represents, let me get you the metric, it's about like almost 20% of all the active wallets, and it's about 10% of the overall activity in terms of dollar traded. So what does it, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, I always find that interesting because when people talk about the disparity between PFP dollar volume and art dollar volume, I always have to remind myself that PFPs are trading hands frequently to be an investment vehicle. So one item could trade hands back and forth several times in a day and represent big dollar volume, not because it's valued more, but just because that transaction happens more frequently because it's a hot potato. People
Yes,
don't want to hold it. They want to get it, make money, lose money, and unload it. Whereas art, yes, it may be just a fraction and a small percentage of the overall dollar volume, but people are collecting and investing very differently. For the most part, I mean, it's
absolutely.
definitely not trading hands as much as, say, the PFP collection. So, there's a tendency to think, oh my goodness, look at that dollar volume. What does that say about us culturally? Well, let's rewind a little bit here. That means people are throwing it back and forth. That doesn't tell you how much money people are just putting in. That's also someone's loss, right? Like dollar volume is
Absolutely.
different than value.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, you said a word which is extremely important. People invest in collectibles, in PFPs. You may not invest into art. You may buy art because you love it. You may have a collection of art just because you love this piece of art. And at the end of the day, you will have one, two, maybe three PFPs that you will truly use. And you may switch from, I don't know, let's say a doodle to an Azuki or something like that. You don't need to have like 25 different PFPs. In that case, it's okay, collection and mostly investment and speculation. And basically, collectibles, it represents 75% of everything traded in NFTs, mostly because of speculation still.
Yeah, and I've never seen that metric where you're talking about how much money people gained or lost by segment. So I really appreciate that. I know a lot of people were cheering on that art was doing well as opposed to some other segments. Talk to me about gaming.
Mhm.
Gaming, to from what we're seeing from our conversations on the Discord, seems to have kind of been a little bit of a catalyst or got an early jump on what the market was going to be doing, or it led it because we saw a lot of activity in both the crypto related gaming tokens and also a lot of the assets, and certainly a lot of the interest and activity seems to have picked up at least anecdotally from what we're seeing on socials and in our community.
So the thing is that gaming is on a lot of different chains to begin with, and some that we just don't support. So we have some on page 14. Yep. So the thing is that about gaming, oh yeah, that's a good one as well. About gaming, so you have some activity and actually a decent activity on Immutable X. You have a Sorare, which is not on Ethereum. You have everything about on running. So all these big games, they are not actually on, let's say, traditional chains, and they basically moved to something which is really perfect for their use case. So the main chains where you see the most of activity is maybe not where you see gaming. So that's why I think that we haven't seen like a massive increase in terms of gaming activity over the past month because they are on let's say, more exotic chains that we don't support yet. But the thing is that it's a quite solid segment with about 17 million traded, only 2.5 million loss. That's still loss, but it's getting better. It's definitely getting better. It's a quite liquid segment because 24 days of holding period is honestly super fast compared to virtual worlds, compared to art, compared to even collectibles. Gaming is one of the most liquid segments. 24 days, less than a month. It means that when you buy an asset, you sell it back within a month.
You know, you talked about the struggles of the metaverse segment, and I think that there are some lines that blur a little bit between gaming and metaverse now. A lot of them are being built out specifically to tie into games. For example, Pudgy Penguins just announced and launched, you know, their iteration of a virtual world. Obviously, Yuga can do interesting stuff with Other Side. I think that's a weird one where some of those assets will cross segments, and it depends where you look, how you categorize them.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. You know, that's exactly the blurred line we have between art and collectibles. We have the same between some virtual worlds, metaverse, and an MMORPG. Some, basically, World of Warcraft could be considered by some people as a metaverse because you have an avatar, you can have wearables, you can be someone, you can interact with true people there. You may buy some stuff, so that definitely looks like a virtual world. So basically, our definition is a virtual world is a place which is not for maybe only one use case. A virtual world and metaverses are places where you can basically have the freedom to build almost whatever you want, and which is not for only just a single use case. If a use case is basically a place where you can go and play with your friends and you can meet and greet with your friends and play a game and be a character, that's a game. At the end of the day, you will be moving with an avatar in a 3D space. That's the common point. But the main difference is that if this is built for a specific use case, which is a game, we consider it a game. The sandbox is not only just a game, it's a global space where you can do a lot of different things, and probably not only games. Even if the baseline is gaming, the central land is not made only for gaming. You can do a lot of stuff there too. So that's the difference we have between what is a virtual world and what is a game. For the one that know, for example, Ember Sword, do you know it's not a super
Yeah.
popular game?
Yeah, no, I know Ember Sword.
Uh,
Yep.
I've been super bullish in this one. The thing is that they've always presented the project as a game. But at the end of the day, you have a 3D, you have a character, it will be more or less in 3D. So that may definitely be considered as a virtual world, but they announced a game, never a virtual world. And you will not be able to do absolutely whatever you want. It's framed to remain within this game ecosystem. So,
Yeah, and for anyone looking for credentials, I do catch Zoup late at night playing games. It tells me on his Discord because he's in my friends list, so I see him gaming over there. You say all these reasons why something would be a game and a virtual world, and what it made me think of is I'm old. So I bought this old game back in the day, an MMO called Asheron's Call, and then they came out with a sequel, Asheron's Call 2, which I bought because I was hyped about it, and there was literally nothing in it. There was no NPCs. There was nothing to do. You were just there, and there were rocks, and you just wandered around aimlessly. And they said it was an open world, but I guess we'll say that they were early to the metaverse concept, right? I'll give them that, and I'll
yeah.
try to excuse it. I moved on quickly to other games. I think I got into Dark Age of Camelot, but that's another story for another day. We'll talk about it afterwards
Uh,
offline, Zoop.
we are too old for this.
So what were some other cool inferences of how the month kind of shaped up?
So what else? Building, I think we've discussed about that. If you, so yeah, you have a global wrap up here. I think one of the big discovery that we've made, and that was a surprise as well, was about wash trading. We were expecting to see a lot of wash trading on the market, specifically at the end of Blur Season 2. But actually, not really. The impact on watch trading is not that big. And from what we've seen, watch trading is about between 4 and 5% of the global NFT market. But for the one that remember X2Y2, they used to do a lot of watch trading and they keep. I totally forgot about this marketplace, to be honest, but over 50% of everything, every activity they have is basically pure watch trading. And you obviously have a question about what is the definition of watch trading? How do we detect watch trading? It's basically the most basic filter you could apply is like basically if two wallets trade the same asset, one, two, three, this is watch trading.
Okay.
That's basically really the basic. We have identified a couple of more complex patterns that we are working on right now. But the definition of watch trading is the same asset being traded again and again between the exact two same wallets. And what we consider as a suspicious sale is basically two of these wallets, people wallets that have done obvious watch trading that add a sale or an interaction together. Even if there is no pattern, if we see these two wallets that usually do watch trading interacting together in a normal sale, this is suspicious. Cannot tell you
Okay.
this is watch trading, but come on.
Right. Good to know. And many people will be glad to hear it wasn't quite as significant as you thought. I know we're coming up on wow, this hour went by fast, Zoop. This went by
Yeah, I know,
fast.
right?
Great
I know.
conversation. I want to is there any particular pages or highlights in the report you want to make sure people know, or you just want them to dive in if they go to the Twitter and pull it down? Because there's a lot of cool insights and charts that you guys have.
I know it's definitely a bit too long, so honestly, I would definitely recommend you to have a look at the wrap up at the beginning, where you have a market overview, you have November NFT market performance. This is in the free one. In the pro, you'll get the detail per segment. So all you can see there per segment is in the pro version. We spent some time to get you a recap of what happened as well. So it's the key facts. It's on page 18. So I think if you really have not had no time to check what happened, I think that this is quite cool to just get an overview of okay, what happened in the NFT space during that month. And if you want to try to make some correlation between news and market move, we haven't seen much, but you may try to play that game. And I think at the end of the day, everything you get at the end about wash trading, state of wash trading, and the evolution of wash trading over time, which is on the page like 50, 51. All of that could give you a fresh view on NFTs. Sorry, on the NFT markets.
Great. I will say that when I went through it, like I said in the beginning, I was impressed by the out of the box inferences. You really have to put on a different lens to say, hey, what can this data mean relative to different things? I see sales metrics a lot. I see predictions on where things will go or why it happened a lot. But what I don't see is correlations to a lot of other things. So kudos to you and your team for putting that together.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, but at the end of the day, we are so happy to be able to produce that. Yeah, on a regular basis. And
I'd
thanks so much
encourage
for the invitation.
anyone that's checking this out to go to the whale Twitter. If you're on there, you can see the post. You can go within here and you can see all of the socials. You can follow Zoup as well as NFT 18. Zoup, while we got you, I did get a couple of DMs with some hot questions. So maybe we could do a little rapid fire round to wrap this up.
Sure.
What are your expectations for Q1 as we approach the Bitcoin halving?
I would love to say we'll see a bull run, a massive bull run, and we'll become billionaire, but no. No, I think that we'll have a lot of new weak signals that the market is heating up. I personally don't think the halving will have much an impact on NFTs. Of course, if we have a global crypto bull run, it will impact NFTs. But what I expect is to see more corporate sales, more brands entering the space, and doing, let's say, smart drops. We may have a couple of new 10K drops or quality drops. So we'll have more and more signals of a market heating up, but I don't think we'll have anything like a kind of crazy bull run we have. Just something like more regular like this.
Here's a somewhat related question. What are your expectations with the upcoming bull run? Do you see it going parallel to 2021, or will it be key differences that you already are calling out?
Um, I think it will be maybe more tough for NFTs to have their bull run. So even if we have a new crypto bull run, we may not have something as we've seen in 2021 because we had so many backslash from media, from everyone about NFTs that were worthless, that had no value proposition. So this backslash, I don't see media getting back like, hey, NFTs are back. It's crazy. It's incredible. Go and buy your stuff. I don't think so. And on the other end, from what we've seen on chains like ordinals, but not only, I think we still have a long road to go as well in terms of producing quality projects. So I, my feeling is that we'll have probably like 6 months quite positive, but maybe a bit slow, and probably from Q3, Q4 next year, maybe we'll have our NFT bull run. No financial advice, of course.
Of course, of course. I know who sent me this one. Do you believe sports collectibles will rebound? A nice pun there, guys. Nice pun.
Uh, yeah, I think honestly, sport collectibles are maybe one of the most interesting collectibles because on some of them you have a real utility. You have some sort of a game, you have something behind. If you refer to, are you referring to like NBA Top Shot or something
Yes,
like that?
yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, I think it's something which is not brand new. Collectibles existed before NFTs, and I think there is obviously a market for that. Um, so yeah, I'm quite optimistic about sports collectibles. Maybe more optimistic on them rather than on, let's say, traditional PFPs. I definitely feel like maybe half of the PFP projects that we know today will die or just become just completely liquid. I don't think it's the case for sports collectibles.
Wow, I think a lot of the community is happy to hear that. I know the NBA Top Shot community feels like they've been through an adventure for sure. You mentioned PFPs, and this is just random aside, which I shouldn't be doing during a rapid fire round, but I will. It's been interesting to see some of the acquisition strategies, so to speak, where different collectibles have gone and said, "We're going to acquire this other one and bring it into the fold under our umbrella." I'd be interested to see how that continues to develop over the next year. Someone said, uh, okay, well, this is kind of related, sports collectibles. What are your thoughts on the difference of success that products that have fantasy elements have had? So they're referencing So Rare, the soccer product, $5 million a week in volume.
Mhm,
DraftKings, Rainmakers, $2-3 million a week in volume. Whereas NBA Top Shot, they're looking at 300,000, right?
mhm.
It's huge difference there. Is that because of the gambling aspect?
I think so. I think that's it's mostly a matter of balance, in my opinion. Is that, oh, to begin with, Sorare, it's about football or soccer, as you call it. Some people call that soccer. And football is super massive. I mean, there is nothing you can do about football. People love it. People could kill for football just because that's their passion. So if you create a project based on football, that is a right balance between gaming, collection, and potentially making a little bit of money with a game. I mean, yeah, of course, you just win it all. So I think their success is not just due to gambling or fantasy. It's basically a combination of it's about something you truly love, so you can spend a lot of time checking the performance of the players and so on. There's a chance to make money. And so it's not only about just you are a big player, you can buy all the big cars and you can make a lot of money. If you are a small player but you know the game perfectly well, you can make money as well. So there's a little bit of your time and your passion become your asset, or basically bring value to your asset.
Yeah, as you talk me through that, it almost sounds like a game that we're playing a lot of on the Whale Discord now, big time, where people are earning while they're playing. This is a great one to end on, I think. Someone
Mhm.
asked, what segment do you think is kind of laggard right now and dragging behind, but you predict it will catch up? It's just hasn't got its momentum yet. So one that you expect this is low and it shouldn't be. I think this is going to really slingshot up.
Um, so the one that is dragging behind right now is Virtual Worlds for the reasons we've mentioned, but I don't see them coming up right away. I think they definitely have to convince a lot about the aesthetic of what they offer, about the use case and all this stuff. So yeah, I don't see them getting back right now. But the one that is definitely underestimated is what we call the utilities. Right now, it's a lot of different use cases, but behind utilities, you have membership, authenticity, ticketing, domain names, digital identity, all this stuff. And I think there will be a super massive market for utilities really soon because it has a real use case. It's not super complex to understand what it is. And most of them are quite affordable. So you don't need to be a millionaire to enter that market. So I feel like utilities may explode in this next wave.
Yeah, in the Discord, they mention something that I've seen frequently on Twitter, the narrative around RWAs or real world assets that are tokenized. It's like some people had just started to wrap the head around the possibilities of NFTs now that we've taken the language and changed it, which is another person on our Discord subspace mentioned we have to ditch the word NFT, and a lot of people do agree with him.
Mhm.
Zoop, thank you so much for chopping it up with us today. This was awesome. I can't wait to do it again when the next report comes out. It will be another wild one given what we're seeing right now in the marketplace. How should people stay tapped in with you?
Actually, we are available on Twitter, on Discord, as usual. If you have any question about the report or any need or whatever, or if you identify something wrong in our report, feel free to contact us on the website. You have a form, so feel free to reach out. We'll definitely take any feedback into consideration.
Awesome. Again, Zoop, thanks so much. We'll catch up and talk some Dark Age of Camelot, it seems. I'll talk to you again soon.
Definitely. Thank you
Take
so much,
care.
everyone.